Today's video I'm going to be doing something a little different. I tried it once a long time ago and then haven't really felt like doing it until recently. And that is, I'm going to review a comic books series I read recently. The main reason I'm doing this is because as I've gotten older, I've noticed my retention for having read a lot of this stuff fades. And it's kind of just tragic because, what was the point of reading all these stories and then you don't really remember most of them. So I'm going to do this and I can always reference it if I feel like and see if I recall, I don't know, the same feelings or whatever. So in this video, what I'm reading or what I read recently was this Fantastic Four Volume 1. It's from more recent years. And according to this, it was published in 2019. It's the current series. Now, my motivation for reading this was because the recent figures are done up like in these new darker blue costumes. I just kind of wanted to see what the source material was like. Now, I read these comics now off Hoopla Digital, which in my library, public library, they have, and it's free to use as long as you have an active card membership, or you need a card number and all that. Once you get that set up, then you can check out, like, I think it's 8, maybe 10 items a month, and you don't get late fees. They return automatically. I've made other videos about them, and they keep adding more and more stuff. Apparently, it does charge your library like 99 cents per checkout, but that's not going to affect you. But just be aware of that so that you don't just keep checking things out that you don't have time to read. What I really like about it is, like, obviously you can read off your phone or a tablet. I like to read off the phone at the gym while I'm like walking the treadmill. And it can go panel by panel so that you get a close zoom up. It's actually easier on my eyes than if I were reading like a normal comic sometimes. Alright, so on to the review. This was by Dan Slott, which I'm familiar with this writer from his work on Spider-Man. I haven't read all of it by any means, but he's pretty confident and makes things enjoyable generally. The illustrators are Sarah Pacelli, Scotty Young, and Simone Bianchi. I apologize for mispronouncing names. I've heard of Scotty Young, too. I have an autographed trading card of his from an Upper Deck collection. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, as you can see, you can rate the title. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because I didn't dislike it. Oh, I should mention that there will be spoilers in this review and any other reviews I give for these comics. I didn't hate it at all. I didn't dislike it, but it didn't wow me. I just kind of was like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. So what happens in it is, and I hadn't been reading Fantastic Four in a long time, but I guess at this point there was this thing called the Future Foundation, which I haven't read but was aware of it existing, which apparently Reed Richards and Sue Storm and their kids gathered these other kids, like they're mostly kids anyway, and they went off into the multiverse or something. And the oldest Richards, Franklin, he can create worlds and things. So I guess he would just keep creating worlds, and they'd go and investigate them and explore them and stuff like that, Star Trek style, sort of. And then this starts off with, like, they've been gone for like 5 years. Like, according to the people in the Future Foundation, their point of view, it's been 5 years. I think for Johnny Storm and the Thing, and that means anybody else that's been on Earth, it's been months, like a few months. In comics they always like to say months, or that could be years, weeks, whatever. But it hasn't been like too long. It's been a while. Like, they've missed the rest of the group, but it hasn't even been like a year. But then Reed Richards, Sue Storm, the kids, and the people in the Future Foundation have been gone for 5 years, which I think is clever because it's a good way to age the children without while making them still present with their parents. And if you didn't know the children, it's Franklin Richards, who's been around since at least the 70s, I think. And Valerie, who she was created like 20 years ago. I was reading Fantastic Four when she was like a baby or whatever. But anyway, it's a good way to age them. Plus, like, obviously Sue Storm and Reed Richards will have aged 5 years, but in comics, it's however the artist wants to draw them, really. And you can tell that Reed is a little older now. Like, I mean, he just kind of looks older, the grays. Um, and then that way we also get to keep Johnny and Thing like younger. Um, so what happens is, all right, the first issue is sorry about that. Is basically dealing with the Thing and Human Torch accepting that maybe the group is never coming back and reuniting. Then they see at the very end of I think actually no, there's like the 4 symbol fires up, and it winds up being a false alarm. It's some kids from Yancey Street, and they just ignited it just for giggles or whatever. And but by the end of it, it really does go off, and it's Reed from whatever dimension they're in. And then in the next issue, you find out what's been going on with them, and they have a run-in with this thing. I think it calls itself Entropy. It's supposed to be like this kind of the Fantastic Four often and run into these like celestial type creatures or universal. I don't know how to describe them. They're godlike, is how Reed puts it. And her big thing is she destroys everything. She's the ending of everything. I mean, it's very much kind of like Hela and Thor Ragnarok, sort of. But anyway, she winds up like killing off almost all these many worlds or universes or whatever that Franklin Richards has created, and his powers have like finally sort of faded. He's still really powerful, but not as fully energized as he previously had been. She's waited until this moment for him, his charge is down or whatever, and then she strikes, and the Future Foundation wind up bringing in all the members that have ever been a Fantastic Four member. And this encompasses a lot of characters. Like we're talking like Black Panther, Storm, Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, Wolverine, Hulk, and anybody that has ever been a member shows up, including of course Johnny and Thing, Human Torch and the Thing. They pop up instantly, which I mean, this is like a cool moment just because it's like, wow, I mean, if there's so many characters, if it was like a movie or something, it would be impressive. But I'm like, man, how do you summon all these characters? Does it mean like Richards has some kind of something inserted in each member's body when they sign on? And some of those characters they didn't officially sign on. It was like the real Fantastic Four weren't around, and somehow they got recruited by someone else. But yeah, I mean, it's comics. You just roll with it. And they show up and help because it's the extended family. The Fantastic Four has always been big about how it's a family, not just a team. And they wind up fighting this entropy thing, and Richards realizes that like they have the teleporter that brought them all. Based on his observations, and Valerie observes it too. I guess her name is Brainstorm. That's because her superpower is she's really smart, which I don't know. Anyway, they've realized that all she's good for is destroying, and she can't create anything. So she's not even from this dimension. So they're able to get her to quit by letting her use their dimensional device, their teleporter, to go back to her one place. Or, I mean, wherever she is from. Otherwise, she's going to be stuck, and I guess that is a better choice for her. And that's how they beat her. And then they send all the extended family back. The 2 memorable moments out of this were, I guess, I've been reading The Immortal Hulk, which is around the same time period. And my understanding is, like, the world thinks the Hulk is dead. Like, Johnny Storm sees Bruce Banner, a.k.a. the Hulk, or actually sees the Hulk, and he's the only one that does see him at first, and so he promises not to reveal that he saw the Hulk. The Hulk's like, don't tell anybody I was here. And then later, after they've teleported everybody except the Fantastic Four back home, that's when they let Bruce Banner show up or reveal that he's still around, and then they teleport him. I thought that was just kind of an interesting way of sneaking him in there, because the Hulk was a member in the early 90s briefly, during the Spider-Man, Wolverine, Ghost Rider team, the all-new Fantastic Four, I think they were called. And then the other one that I think is interesting is Iceman apparently was a member, and they keep saying in the little side panel they're like, this is a story that has not been revealed yet. Like, it's clearly the Slott is showing this for a future story. It's gonna retcon it, where Iceman apparently was some kind of member of the Fantastic Four briefly in the past, and it's just an old untold tale. Apparently, it's a big thing for the Human Torch to get upset about, and Iceman always jabs him about it, and like at least 3 times in this story, he's like, "Oh, so that means I officially am a member," and the Human Torch is like, "No, no, you're not." And then the side panel or whatever says, "This, don't worry, this story is coming. You'll see it next year." I thought that was like the best part of the whole story, of the entire book, because I don't know. I like seeing Human Torch and Iceman bickering, and I want to know what that story is about. But then they go back to Earth. Finally, the Fantastic Four goes back, and there's like this group called the Fantastic Six, I think is how you pronounce it. They're like these clearly like rip-off characters that are fighting the Wrecking Crew, and ultimately, yeah, like the Thing who's proposed to his longtime love, he decides he's not getting involved. He's going to find Alicia and let her know that he's all right. Franklin Richards follows suit. He doesn't think they should get involved. The others kind of think they should. Johnny Storm messes up and gets in everybody's way. But Brainstorm figures out what her dad Reed has already figured out, which is this setup has all been staged, and all she has to do is promise to pay more money than the people that staged it, so that they pay more money to the Wrecking Crew, and they'll stand down. So they stand down because they reveal it has been staged, and everybody involved was a hoax. Like even the public watching are extras. And I thought it was kind of clever because the Wrecking Crew are getting arrested, and then they're like, not to like, which is weird though, because like, I mean, what are handcuffs gonna do? But anyway, the wrecker's like, well, are we still getting paid? And then the daughter Brainstorm's like, no, I'm a minor and I can't make contracts, which is true. And it's like, so she tricked them, and I thought that was like it was a tongue in cheek little moment, but I mean, it wasn't bad. It was pretty clever. But that was the story. So it was okay. I'm glad I didn't spend money, but for a free download and then you read it and it's not stored in your house or whatever, taking up space, I thought it was worth checking out. And once Volume 2's up, I'll check that out as well. I highly recommend this Hoopla system. But yeah, let me know if you're watching any of these and what you think. I'm sure Dan Slott will produce some really awesome stories that I like more. Like I said, his Spider-Man stuff has been pretty cool. But thanks for watching. And in my next video, I'm going to be opening and reviewing the Reed Richards figure.